Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Yazz'n and you're watching Yazz'n It Up. And I know we are in a different location. We're still in my bedroom. It's just that the view is a little bit different because I'm sitting at my desk and I'm going to be showing you guys a simple foundation routine where I give you a couple tips and tricks on how I apply my foundation. This is a personal preference. I do have oily skin for reference and most of the stuff is drugstore. So if you guys want to get ready with me, or if you guys want to maybe learn something new about how to apply my foundation and my contour, blush, and highlight, then just keep on watching. Alright, so as you can see, I put my hair up. I have my mirror right here in front of me and I have all my products around me. So first step that I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be taking a micellar water, or you can use a toner, and I'm going to be putting it on a cotton round, and I'm just going to be cleansing my face off first just so we can get any gunk off or any leftover makeup that you might have already had before. And my cotton rounds I usually get at like the dollar store. They're super cheap there. They're $1 for, I think there's maybe 60 or 80 in a pack. Rather than going to like Walmart or Target, just figured the dollar is the cheapest option. These work just fine for me, and clearly, I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to see that, I had leftover makeup on. I did take my makeup off when I got home and now I'm reapplying my face. So I already knew that I had leftover makeup on, and that's what the toner and micellar water does, is it gives you a clean face so you can start working. So first I'm going to be taking a primer. I'm actually combining two. The first one I have here is the No Problem Primer from Touch and Soul. And I'm also going to be using this Hard Candy Sheer Envy Stick It to Pores Mattifying Primer. So this is actually a stick. So here's what this one looks like. I'll be focusing this more on the T-zone, and the No Problem I'll be putting all over my skin. So this one is really hydrating and it's also silicone-y. I've actually tried this before. I got it in an Ipsy bag and I ended up not liking it, but then someone gave me the full size, and I've been using it for a little bit and so far so good. It's better than I remember, to be honest. Super silicone-y, super smooth. It doesn't fill in my pores like I'd like it to, but it does the job and it primes my skin fairly well. Honestly, you can get primers anywhere. They're super cheap, super affordable. And the drugstore just has so many options. So like I said, I'm going to be going in with this Hard Candy one really in the T-zone area, which is like my cheek area, my nose, my forehead, because that's where I feel like my pores are the biggest, and I really just want to fill them in so I can get a nice smooth look, and that way my foundation goes on flawlessly. So fun fact, I actually do my eyebrows last, but I looked on camera and I looked absolutely crazy without them on. So I decided to put them on, and if I have to fix them, I'll fix them later. But I always do my eyes first, and then foundation, and then eyebrows. So now that I have my primers on my skin, I usually let them like sit there for a little bit, and now would be the time where I would go wet my beauty sponge. So when I do foundation, I usually use a beauty sponge. The one that I have currently is a Real Techniques one, and I also have an e.l.f. one on rotation. This one I've been holding on to for a while. It's honestly really old and I should probably put it in my empties, but because I wash my sponges so often, they're usually clean. I wash them after every use and they've lasted me a long time. This is one of my favorite sponges. So after my no-buy year is over, I definitely want to go purchase more of these Real Techniques one, and I think during my no-buy year, something's telling me I'm going to need to buy a sponge, and this is probably the one I would gravitate towards. So now that I let my primer sink in my skin, you guys can use any foundation that you have. When you're looking for a foundation, one thing that you definitely want to check is that if you have your bottle, you want to put it to your neck and match it with your body, not with your skin. Because usually your face is a little bit lighter than the rest of your body, and you don't want to match it with your arm because first of all, you have two shades on your arm. This side is always going to be lighter for me and this side is always going to be darker. And honestly, your neck is your best bet. So I'm actually mixing two foundations because this is in my project pan and this one is just a little bit darker, so I mixed these together to get my perfect shade. The foundations I'm talking about is this Rimmel London Stay Matte Liquid Mousse Foundation, and I have this in the shade Soft Beige. So I'm going to be mixing this with my LA Girl Pro Coverage HD High Definition Illuminating Foundation. This is a little bit illuminating and this is a little thick, and this is also thinner, so when I mix these together, it makes a great consistency and a great color for me. So I'm going to do that real quick on the back of my hand. Now that I have my concoction made, I usually just take my fingers and I apply it to my face, or I know some people take the sponge and they dab it on the back of their hand. So I'm just going to go ahead and start putting it all over my face in a little streaks. This is what I usually do. I know some people use a brush, which is totally fine. I tend to use a brush when I'm using stick foundations, not liquid foundations. With liquid foundations, I always just prefer to sponge. And don't forget to do your chin and a little bit on your neck, because we like to blend it down. That way everything just seems kind of seamless. So now I'm going to take my damp beauty sponge and I'm just going to start blending it out. And you could never blend too much. So if you feel like you haven't blended enough, just keep on blending, because it's not going to hurt the process. And basically you want your foundation to look like your skin. You just want it to look like it kind of just evened it out. You don't want it to look super cakey. If it looks super cakey, you might not have gotten the best foundation for you. They have luminous ones, they have matte ones, they have a whole bunch of different ones. One with sheer coverage, medium coverage, high full coverage. There's just so many out there. And honestly, I've never used any high-end foundation before. I've always used drugstore foundations and they've always treated me right. I wear foundation every day, so spending $40 on a foundation is just not ideal. And I know on camera I probably look kind of crazy, but in person it's a pretty good shade match. I know sometimes the camera picks up a different color. And I'm just gonna keep on blending, and a little bit down my neck as well, a little bit behind the ear. It's okay, when you take it off at the end of the night, just make sure you wash your entire face, and especially down your neck. Okay, now that I have all of that blended, I can see in my mirror here that everything is pretty well blended out. You definitely want to make sure you blend it down your neck, like I said before, and make sure you really drag it down, because if you can see that your foundation ends here, it's not going to look very cute. You're just going to have like a line of foundation and then a line of skin. So you want to make sure you really blend down, especially at the edges. So now that my foundation is down, I'm going to be taking a concealer. This is my Maybelline Instant Age Rewind. I also have this in my Project Pan, which is why I'm using it. So usually people put their concealer under their eyes, but I know some trends have been going around where they do it here in the middle, they do it down their nose, they do it on their chin, they go all over. I'm not that extra with my concealer. I actually don't usually wear concealer every day. I just put on foundation and powder. And that's it. But when I do wear concealer, I do make the triangle under my eyes and then I blend that out. So I don't like too much concealer. Okay, I have a lot of concealer on. I don't like thick and a lot of concealer on. This is pretty thin. The reason I don't like mine thick is because I have dry under eyes, so they tend to look crepey. So I'm just gonna go ahead and blend that underneath. And make sure you're reaching the bottom lash line, because if your concealer ends here, you can kind of see that and it's pretty noticeable. So I'm just gonna really kind of get into my eye. My eye will be okay. And really blend that out and drag it underneath. Concealer brightens up the under eye because most people don't get enough sleep, so their under eye is a little bit dark. So the concealer really helps brighten it and it looks like you've gotten sleep. So the reason people put concealer down their nose is to brighten this middle part. That way your nose looks a little bit smaller. And people put concealer on their forehead to basically just make them look a little bit more luminous, a little bit more bright. As well as they put some over the Cupid's bow just to make their lips a little bit more fuller. But that's not the case for me. I don't really tend to do that kind of thing. So now that I have my foundation and my concealer on, I need to set this right away. I am an oily girl, so I do set my entire face with powder. Some people with drier skin, they just set their concealer and they don't really do much with the rest of their face, but I kind of need to set my entire face. So my favorite drugstore powder is my Rimmel Stay Matte Mattifying Loose Powder. I do not have any pressed powders in my collection right now because I am in a no buy year, so I do have this powder on hand and I'll be putting this all over my face, starting with the concealed part, which is my under eyes. I actually like setting my face with the same sponge that I used. I think it just applies very nicely. So I'm going to be taking my sponge and dipping it into my powder here and starting with right underneath my eyes. I'm really going to press that in and blend that out. And also this powder really gets rid of my pores. It makes my skin so smooth, and I do have large pores, but with this powder you can kind of see that they're very minimized. Next area that I really like to hit hard with powder is the rest of my T-zone. So I get super oily on my forehead, my nose, and my chin. So those areas I'm really going to press the powder in. I don't usually bake my face. I know some people do, which is no problem. I'm sure if I baked my face a little bit longer, my foundation would stay on longer and I wouldn't get oily so soon. If you don't know what baking it is, basically when you let your powder sit under your eyes or on your face and you literally let it sit there and you look crazy, but it makes your foundation and powder last a lot longer. I kind of just push it into the skin and hope for the best. So because I'm not oily on like my cheek area here and basically the rest of my face, all I do is a dusting of powder. So I'll take a powder brush and I'll just wipe that all over my face. So the powder brush I'll be using is this Royal & Lang Nickel multi-purpose powder brush. I got this in an Ipsy bag. So I put a little bit on the lid here and I basically just gonna press this into the skin as well. Just pouncing up and down like I would if it was a sponge, and especially down the neck because we did put foundation down our neck as well. Okay, so basically my entire face is covered in powder, which is kind of what I like because like I said before, I'm oily and by like 3 or 4 hours my face starts to melt together. So for me, the more powder the better. So now that we have primer, foundation, concealer, and powder on, basically our base is done. I'm basically just going to be quickly showing you guys how I contour, put on my blush, and highlight, which is basically a breeze. So the contouring palette that I'm going to be using is right here. It's the City Color Contour Effects On The Go. I've had this for a long time. I got this for $5 at Five Below, and as you can see, I have 2 powders that I hit pan on. I absolutely love this product. Alright, so I'm just going to be going in with this e.l.f. blush brush. As you guys can see, it is a little tapered at the top, which is what I like to contour with. So I'm just going to mix a couple of these shades together. And I'm going to go in with the hollows of my cheekbones. The reason people contour is to make them look skinnier and to shadow in this part, which is like underneath your cheekbone a little bit. So here's my cheekbone. This is where I'll be putting my contour. So I'm just going to lightly dust it. And when you suck it in like that, like make a fish face, you'll really be able to see where your brush will fit in. So I prefer going in circular motions versus going like that because I feel like circular motions, it's a little less harsh than just a hard streak. And I even like to take maybe the lightest shade, which is right here of the palette, and I like to put that around my forehead here to make it a little bit more smaller. So it's honestly just a light dusting, but it's very effective. And don't worry if your contour is a little bit messy, say you got it a little bit down here, because I'm gonna go in and clean it up a little bit as well. Okay, so my contour is done. As you can see, we're very bronzed here. So when we suck it in, you're basically gonna see go straight through, which is what that powder does. It really emphasizes that cheekbone line. So next step, what I usually do is take a blush. I'm just gonna be using this Wet n Wild's Color Icon in Pearlescent Pink. So as you guys can see, it's a bright pink shade, but I'm just gonna go with a light dusting of this. So I'm gonna be taking my BH Cosmetics 134 brush. As you can see, this is one that I tend to use for blush since it has a pink top. And I'm just gonna smile, that way I plump up my cheeks here, and I'm just gonna lightly dust it since this is a brighter pink. And I really focus this on the apples of my cheek, but I only drag it back here just a little bit. And I'm just going in circular motions, that way I'm blending everything out seamlessly and I have no harsh lines, and I usually blend in circular motions for basically everything on my face. Now that I have my blush on, I'm going to go with highlighter, which is my favorite part. And today I'm going to be using one from Urban Decay. It's in the shade Sin. But first, to intensify this highlight, I'm going to be spraying my face. You can use any facial spray, any setting spray, whatever spray you'd like, just not hairspray. I'm going to be drenching my entire face. The one I'm using is an Aloe Green Tea Soothing Facial Spray. This is going to do 2 things. It's gonna melt all of my powders together so my face doesn't look super powdery. We have powder on, we have bronzer on, we have blush on, and then we're putting highlighter on. It's a lot of powders. You don't want to look like a powdered donut. So the facial spray is definitely going to help. And the second thing it's going to do is intensify my highlight. So I tend to do one half of my face at a time. I'll usually do my left, go in with my highlight, and then do the right side, because by the time I drench my entire face, do one side of highlight, this side is already dry, if that makes any sense. really just focusing in on the left side. Now I'm going to be taking this brush here. This is a BH Cosmetics 140 brush. Dipping into my highlight, and I'm not going to be too stingy with it. I'm going to go right here on the top of my cheekbone. And as you can see, that facial spray definitely helped. I even like to put some on the apples of my cheek because when I smile, you'll be able to see my highlight as well. And I take it all the way to my temple and, like usual, blending in circular motions. And as you can see, our highlight is on. So not only do I put my highlights at the high points of my cheeks, I also highlight underneath my brow bone, which I already have. I highlight the tip of my nose and my cupid's bow. So I'm just gonna lightly do that. The reason I do it on my cupid's bow is because it makes my lipstick stand out, and I love just the definition it gives. And now I'm gonna be going in on my right side. And as you can see, we are very blinding all the way to the temple. My skin looks nice and refreshed because I set it with that facial spray. And I just look very glowy, perfect for the summertime. And I also have a little bit of sheen in the blush, which just adds another level of the luminous and glowiness on my skin. So like I said before, if you get your bronzer a little bit too low, we're gonna go ahead and fix that. So to fix that, I'm going to be going in with this Beauty Benefits Hollywood Pressed Powder. So I originally bought this at the Dollar Tree, trying to save some money, and this powder sucks to set your face. But what I did find it very useful for was to clean up underneath my contour, because this is almost like a highlight, like it's trying to be a highlight, trying to be a powder at the same time. So what I do is I take my brush, dip it in the powder here. As you can see, I've even hit pan on it because I've been using it to set my eye primer or to contour underneath. So this is just going to basically highlight underneath my contour. So as you can see, I could get a clean line there, and then I'm just going to blend it down. And if you got too much bronzer down here, this powder will clean it up. So I would recommend getting a powder that's just a little bit more lighter than your normal skin tone, because that'll help cut that line, and then your bronzer will look super chiseled. All right, and then also don't forget to blend it down your neck. You don't want to look too crazy, but my contour is all cleaned up, and I just like that look. And to get rid of that harsh line, I'm lightly, so lightly, gonna go in with my bronzer brush and just go over it maybe once or twice, because you don't want to ruin the job that you just did. So now everything is cleaned up and our face is completely done. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and you got a couple new tips and tricks on how to apply foundation. This is basically just a video for beginners who maybe they're not used to applying foundation or they don't wear it on a daily basis, as well as some tips and tricks on how I do the powders on my face. If you guys like me sitting down and doing my makeup with you guys, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and I could do more videos like this in the future. Don't forget to follow me on my Instagrams. I have one for my desserts and one for my YouTube channel, as well as my Snapchat is also listed down below. I hope you guys have a great day.